The prairie wind swept across the wide open land, carrying with it the scent of dust, sage, and loneliness. In the distance, a cowboy rode slow and steady, his horse's hooves thudding against the earth like a tired heartbeat. His name was Caleb McGraw, a man of few words, hardened by years of cattle drives, storms, and the kind of silence that eats at a man's soul. He had no family, no wife to greet him at night, no child's laughter echoing in the cabin he built with his own hands. Only the land and the sky kept him company. Folks called him the lonely cowboy, and maybe he was. But he had learned to live with the emptiness. Or so he thought. Caleb was returning from town when he saw her. She was standing by the broken fence of an abandoned homestead, clutching a small bundle in her hands. Her dress was worn thin, her eyes weary but bright. She looked like someone who had been waiting. For what, Caleb couldn't say. Even in, Caleb greeted, tugging his hat lower against the sun. She looked up, startled, then whispered, "Please, don't ride on." Caleb paused, uneasy. A man alone on the frontier didn't invite trouble, and strangers were often nothing but. But something in her eyes held him still, something between desperation and hope. "Lydia," she said softly, clutching the bundle to her chest. "My folks are gone. I've nowhere left to go." As the silence stretched, Lydia stepped closer. Her voice trembled, not from fear but from the raw courage it took to speak. "Please take me," she whispered. "I can cook, I can sew, I can bear you children too, if you'll have me." The words hit Caleb like a shot. He wasn't a man given to dreaming of family, not anymore. Life on the plains was hard, too hard for promises of forever. Yet here was a woman, offering herself not out of frivolous fancy, but survival, longing, and maybe something more. He searched her eyes for deceit, found none, just the trembling hope of someone who wanted to belong. Caleb didn't answer right away, but he offered his hand, and Lydia climbed onto his horse behind him. That was answer enough. Days turned into weeks. Lydia filled the cabin with the smell of warm bread, the sound of humming while she worked, the simple grace of a woman's touch. For Caleb, who had only known silence, it was as though the house itself breathed again. At first, their conversations were few. Caleb wasn't used to words, and Lydia wasn't used to being heard. But over time, they found rhythm in one another. She'd tell him stories while he mended tack. He'd teach her to ride the horse she was once afraid to approach. Slowly, the loneliness thinned. One evening, as the sky burned orange over the horizon, Caleb found her standing on the porch. She looked at him, her hand resting on her stomach, and whispered again, this time not with desperation, but with a tender smile. "You gave me more than shelter. You gave me a home. And soon, I'll give you a child." Caleb swallowed hard, emotion tightening his throat. He wasn't a man who spoke sweet words, but he took her hand in his and said the only thing he could. "You'll never be alone again. Not as long as I draw breath." The lonely cowboy was lonely no more. The cabin filled with laughter, the pitter-patter of children's feet, and the warmth of a love born not out of chance, but out of a whispered plea and a heart brave enough to hope. The land was still hard, the work still endless, but now every sunrise meant more. Because the prairie no longer belonged to one man. It belonged to a family. And every night, as Lydia rested against him, Caleb remembered the moment she first whispered those words. Words that turned his empty life into one worth living. A tale of love found in the harshest places, where loneliness met courage, and a whisper changed everything.